Hey everybody, and welcome to Stock Abilities. Make sure to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. If you want more details about specific things I'll be covering in this video, just make sure to watch them in the playlist. It's going to be like an overview recap of a lot of stuff I covered because there hasn't been much new stuff since the last video that I did. Now, if you're not familiar, the Naked brand group is established in 2010 by founder Joel Primus in Vancouver. Naked has a strong and growing footprint, as they say, and they're established mostly in the United States. Bendon is mostly established in Australia and New Zealand, I believe. They both offer very similar products, and they've been doing a lot of stuff together, and they did already announce a letter of intent to get a potential merger quite a while back. In the next 2 trading days, they have to announce an update on that. Most people are pretty bullish on that. The issue isn't necessarily about the merger, but what it's going to be popping to, and I'm going to go into details about my opinion on that. As you can see, the stock price is at 225 with it up to 230 in the after hours, but the volume's kind of minimal, so I wouldn't really count that as what the current stock price is. The pre-market is what's going to matter tomorrow. As you can see, it's was kind of steady and steady and steady, and then you got news here of the letter of intent. Then you got news here somewhere in this area here of the HSN, which I'm going to be covering here in a little bit for their Comfortably You brand. And then it kind of crashed down a good bit all the way down to here, and then around in this area here there was insider buy-ins. I'm going to cover that here as well. But we're going to go right to it here for Bendon. Bendon is the company that's trying to get a hold of the U.S. markets, and Naked's the perfect one to provide it. Keep in mind that Bendon, without Naked, will have to spend millions and millions of dollars to break into the U.S. market, and on top of that, they will have to spend many years trying to get into it, and at least a year or two just to get their IPO, and it's a lot of hassle and it's a lot of cost, and it makes really no sense why the merger will not go through. I've covered that a couple times. We're going to go a little bit more specifically here, that they're working on building up an even stronger wall from the insider shares already built up at 214. Did some quick math here, and they have over $1 million worth of a wall that they're going to be getting in shares coming up here soon. So you're probably going to be seeing some stock option filings either tomorrow or aka today, depending on when you're watching this, or possibly on Monday. You're going to go down here to where I get this specific data. You got 3.4 million shares with an average 3.87 per share are vested as of March 29th, so they need to exercise them at 387, so the stock price needs to go to that. Same thing here, 529 for the stock price of that, and then you got 509,000 shares of our common stock available for future issuance under our 2014 equity incentive plan as of March 29th, 2017. Doesn't really have an exercise price, so I guess at this particular one they can exercise at any point. I'm going to assume they're going to use that maybe as a bolster point, or they're going to use this particularly here. We're going to go a little bit further here. This guy kind of covers it pretty straightforward, but I'm going to use the filing here later on. This guy's over here saying the merger is going to dilute, they have to get rid of 100 million shares. The only problem is it's an issuance of shares to the new co. It's not dilution. It's more the fact that Bendon is a significantly larger company than the Naked brand group. This guy probably just wants to scare some people off, buy some stop losses, and make some quick money. So just generally ignore him. We're going to go a little bit further into here. This is something that was the big issue here that was covered is, of course, an offering. The offering created dilution. The offering was $5 million worth of shares. That's a lot of dilution, and it's kind of hard to fight against from a normal person. And then, of course, they made a slightly amended agreement for $500,000 adding into that. And so there was a little bit more dilution on top of that very recently. Gonna go a little bit further here. For you guys not familiar, it's participants in the solicitation. It's naked and its directors, executive officers, and certain other members of management and employees may be deemed to be participants in the solicitation of proxies from the stockholders of Naked in connection with the proposed merger. And then it goes into little details about that. If you guys aren't familiar, there's another part of it somewhere in this filing here that goes into more details about the vote, but I covered that in my playlist, so check that out if you want more details about the voting process and all of that. Going a little bit further here, this is what I was referring to earlier, was the amended 500,000 that they added in. To me, this seems, as I covered in another video, kind of like a salary price almost. And what's interesting is you have a recent $1.2 million worth of insider share buy-ins that were not filed in these recent documents. Now, this is just more information about the offering here. As you can see, the immediate dilution of 1.71. That's where they got the 387 exercise price. It was around 571, I believe, per share exercise price in one of the older filings. Then the dilution kind of crashed it down a little bit. I could be off on that. Might have been 576 or something like that. But short answer is it was diluted, and the now exercise price is 387, which is actually better because they can build up more of a strong wall for when the warrant dilution comes into play. Now this is Form 4. This is something to keep in mind here, that 1.2 million shares were acquired by Carol Hotchman. Now this was in a filing. Now the one that was not in a filing was this one here. This is what makes me believe that this might be a new person becoming, I don't know, a part of a board into the company coming up here. So keep that in mind, because they acquired 1.2 million shares as well, but they were not mentioned as a permanent board member for Bendon. However, Hotchman was, and there was a 500K out of nowhere. Seemed to be late filing, as was this, so keep those two in mind. They might be connected, they might not be. It's just a theory of mine. And I believe I covered that already. We're going to go into the insider shares. Now, of course, this isn't showing as the ones that were recently acquired as of yet, but as you can see, over a 12-month period, they've held not too many shares, but they've held them for quite a long time. And they got some buy-ins here at 3, and they got some buy-ins at 4, and then the price went down a good bit. And then, of course, the letter of intent came out, and then it spiked back up to 2+, and it's been holding pretty much solid there since the letter of intent. It dipped a little bit down to 180. That was about the scariest part, but it's pretty stable at this point. The main thing to note is they are not selling shares. Of course, as they highlighted here, and I highlighted this in another video, there's a lot of things to look out for: actual or anticipated fluctuations in our quarter or annual operating results, our cash position, announcement of expectation of additional financing efforts. Of course, the amendments and delays is what they're referring to here that would have made the stock a little bit more volatile. Some of the other things here: sales of our shares are common stock by us, by our stockholders in the future, can change the price, of course. And a lot of these other ones are pretty standard common sense things to keep in mind. And of course, this is the risks you take with stock markets. And something here to highlight, this is a rather old filing at this point, but you want to look for the SC13G filings, as those are institutional buy-ins with over 5% of shares acquired for the total. So if you see a lot of these SC13Gs popping up, that is a very good thing. If you see a Form 4, that is an especially good thing coming up. We'll go a little bit more details about that. That the Form 4 is essentially what I showed you guys earlier, with the basically individuals buying in from the options or just in general, such as Hotchman. And as you can see here, I'm just going to go over some basic news that I've covered in other videos, but I'm going to cover it over really quick here again. Now, this is information about the Roth conference. I covered the Roth conference in another video in the playlist. If you want to check that out, just check it out there. You can even listen into the audio presentation because they finally listed it on their website. If you want to check that out quick, if you happen to have missed it when it was live, it sometimes seems to show on their website, other times not. So if you can't find it, don't be really surprised. I'm not sure what's going on with that aspect, but in general, the webcast is very insightful. And one of the quotes he literally says that they're going to sign it on the 10th of April. However, that could just be a broad statement for the investors. It doesn't necessarily mean that he meant that. He might have been indicating that up until April 10th that they'll be signing it. Going a little bit further, this covered this way earlier. This is where it all started with the letter of intent with Naked Brand Group and the Bendon Limited, and this is what we're waiting on. Of course, when this becomes a definitive merger agreement, and then on top of that with the voting for solicitation for the actual merger to go through, that's obviously going to go through without a problem when it gets to that point. And this goes into more specifics as to what I mentioned earlier. Bendon would gain immediate access to the U.S. capital markets, enabling it to further grow the business globally, both organically and through future strategic acquisitions. So, of course, they actually want to continue growing on top of getting into the U.S. market, so they get Naked Brand Group to help them with that, save them millions. Then they get to extend further with other potential acquisitions. So this company might just continue to grow, get more and more acquisitions, get more and more capital, and expand quite rapidly in the next few years. And of course, this is the HSN and Naked Brand Group partner to launch Comfortably You. This was one of the biggest pops they had, even beyond the letter of intent pop, which is very interesting. HSN, of course, is a home shopping network, and they were selling a lot of clothing. So not only do you have that to look forward to for the merger, but the Naked Brand Group should have a pretty good earnings report coming up here soon before the official merger goes through. So that'll create another pop upcoming if you guys are here just for the day trade or swing trade. And this is one of the things people were worried about, but there's nothing really to worry about this. It says 118 ordinary shares of Newco. The issued amount of ordinary shares of Newco equal to the number of shares standing stock of Naked immediately prior to the merger. What you guys are missing is that, of course, this is more of an issuance rather than dilution. Naked is a rather small company as compared to Bendon, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't worry too much about this, and it's not something you really have to worry about if you're playing it as a swing for now. If you're playing it as more of a long-term swing until the official merger finalization, you might want to factor that in, but ultimately that's seen as a good thing rather than a bad thing, in my opinion. Of course, as I covered previously before, the things you want to look out for are the 8K. That's a major announcement. The Form 4 right here. And of course, the SC13G. These are all very important. If you see a lot of the SC13Gs, that means a lot of institutions bought in. If you see a lot of Form 4s, that's a lot of new insiders buying in. And of course, if you see an 8K, some kind of major event that they had to file. If you see an 8K tomorrow, chances are it's not necessarily going to be their merger announcement. It might be the announcement for the offering being finished. It's unclear 100% whether they have to file it, but I believe that they would. I'm just unsure, since it was considered an amendment rather than a whole new offering in itself, whether that has to be filed in the first place. We will find out on that coming up here very soon, either Friday morning or Monday, as those are their last 2 days to announce something. They have to file something in the next 2 trading days, so keep that in mind. I believe that covers everything I wanted to cover in this video. I'm sure I've overlooked something at some point. Just check out the playlist. I cover pretty much all about Naked Brand Group, more background information, all of that. Subscribe to the channel if you want to check all that out. I'll be doing some educational videos and some other stuff here after the Naked Brand Group and the Bendon merger. I don't believe there's any real risk in regards to this company and the upcoming merger. a lot of people were asking what my goal for a stock price is. Me personally, I see it potentially pumping up to $5, maybe $6, because that is what the warrant price is. Otherwise, the warrant holders are going to have to wait many, many months. As I covered it here in my Discord channel, you can see there's a 1 million share wall that'll be at 387, and then you got 529 for the warrant holders, and then what better time to pump than on the news of the merger finalization, rather than rather than the actual finalization, which could be months from now. Warrant holders just simply want their money back. They're not going to want to wait, so they're going to pump it if there's a lot of momentum. This could easily break $4, $5, maybe even 6 or 7, depending on how strong of a momentum it has. I'd say a safe bet, if you don't want to be too risky, anything above 350 you should be good at. I'd personally trying to hold out till 5, but if the momentum looks kind of terrible, I'll probably be selling between 3 and 4. Of course, there's no guarantee that they have to actually claim the warrants, but it really makes no sense why they would delay on that. I mean, they're here to collect up their money, and they want to get some good chunks of money back. They've been waiting on this for many months as it is, as I found mentioned older filing back in October, and they've been waiting for 5, 6 months at the very least, and I'm sure some of the warrants go back even further than that. So keep that in mind, that this isn't like they're jumping in a month or two later. They're jumping in many months later to claim those warrants. And we're going to go all the way back to the beginning here. So, if anything, I'd put a lot of trust in that the merger is going to happen. I don't understand any reason as to why it would not with Bendon and Naked. There's a lot on stake for a Naked brand group, that there's some um, shares that they're going to have to issue to Bendon, and that's going to dilute their value of their company in that scenario where if they don't go through with the merger. So that is something to factor in. That could dip the stock price quite significantly, but I don't see that as a scenario. And they got a lot of different brands between the two of them. They did the expo together. They did the Roth conference together. And they've had the letter of intent out for quite a while here. If you listen to the conference, they've had other conferences as well, not too far from each other, even before the letter of intent was even mentioned. So that is something to keep in mind. So you guys are probably good to go on this. Of course, there's risk involved that for some reason it's delayed again, or someone changes their mind, but I don't see the logic in that. The biggest issue is just how much it's going to pump to, and we'll find that out here come Friday or Monday. So have a nice day, and thanks for listening in.